Hi guys, welcome to another video with myself, Ray. First of all, as always, fantastic feedback from the videos with these guests I have, and today I got a really excited one, more of the continental kind, if you could say. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Gabriel Pena Loza from Net That Hall. How are you, sir?
Muy bien, Ray. I'm doing well, brother. How are you doing? Thanks for the
Yeah,
invite.
como estás, man? Muy bien. I was excited for this, man. I was looking at my timer and saying, "Adere, vamos, hurry up."
I gotta say, I considered, like, I've been thinking about this so much that I considered watching like Real Madrid documentaries just to really get in the mood. I was like, I'm feeling this, man. So screw it.
I love it, man. So, for those who'll hopefully watch, I kind of collaborate, I'd like to say, a little bit with Gabe and Net That Hall. And during the shows I was watching, or I watch every single one, I realized that my man here is quite philosophical. So he likes, some of the very inspirational quotes and tries to kind of liaise it with FPL, which I really appreciate. And then after that, Gabe, I don't know how many I gave you within a short amount of time.
It's when you send me those, it's interesting. There's definitely a commonality in them, and it's that like stepping up and challenge and compete and fight. That's I can see the motivation in you.
Yeah. And from our short time collaborating together, you can see I'm a bit of a pusher and a chaser. Is that fair to
Yeah.
say?
I mean, you wouldn't be so good at what you do if you weren't my friend.
So anyway, as I said kind of in the intro, I have been absolutely hyped for this one because it's about one of my favorite football teams. I think Real Madrid were my first, or Real Madrid were my first love of foreign football. And there's so many amazing players. But before we get to that, gotta know, who is Gabe? If you could give me a little bit of an inkling about the man.
I mean, I guess my history. Born in Caracas, Venezuela, and I lived there until I was about 4, and then I moved to Canada where I spent 7 years.
Mhm.
Interesting thing about that is my first language is Spanish, but while I was living in Canada, I forgot all my Spanish, and I only knew English. And when I was around 11, I moved back to Venezuela, and I knew no Spanish, like nothing. And in about 6 weeks, I was fluent. Like I had never left.
Awesome.
So it was
Awesome.
there. It was dormant somewhere. um, I've played the game my whole life. I was scouted by the Canadian national team. Played for the Venezuelan Federation.
Wow.
Played in college some. Played semi-pro at the age of 41. Uh, and what
You
else?
have badges, don't you? You have the badges, the actual coach badges. Am I correct?
I do. I have United States Soccer Federation B license.
Fantastic.
So the yeah, and I love soccer education. Even one as dysfunctional as the one here in U.S. soccer. I love the because it's like a meeting of ideas with other coaches
Mm.
like all surrounded around a similar curriculum, but with different perspectives around that curriculum. Um, so I love that experience.
How is the kind of I wouldn't say exposure because I've got a lot of family in the States, and whenever I can, I love to get down there because I just love the States. Is How's he kind of feeling about football, or as you call it, soccer? Is it growing? Has it shortened a little bit? I mean, what is, because obviously there's Inter Miami now with Beckham kind of owning the whole thing. So what is it like? Has it grown in the past 10 years, or is it hit a bit of a rock?
I, I have to say it's a little bit complicated because there is reason to be excited
Mm.
about the football in this country, and but there's also a reason to be quite upset about the football here. So I've been involved in football in the United States for many years, and I started a nonprofit when I lived in LA that I ran for many years there. And one of the things about football here that people don't know is it's the most popular sport in terms of participation until the age of 13. More
Wow,
kids play football here than any other sport.
wow.
Yeah, yeah.
But why do they switch to like basketball or gridiron, as I like to call it?
I mean, Tradition is one for sure.
Okay.
There's the certain culture that may be difficult to change. The football players might be more popular, right? Or a basketball player might be, if you're living in LA, basketball might be the cool sport to play.
It is.
So I think there are a lot of social factors. I think it's also around the time when kids are entering like adolescence, so their attention, like they're seeing a lot more of the world, and so their attention, they get distracted quite a bit. The difference is that whereas in other countries you have like the tradition and the passion and the culture anchoring the sport. So even when kids in other countries get distracted, there's still that anchor. That's their home that they return to. This country doesn't. The football is not that in this country, right? Mm-hmm. So it's easy to get kind of unmoored from football. The other reason is they take the U.S. soccer takes a simple game, right? It's a rectangle, a couple of markers and a ball. And they turn it, they make it a pay to play system. So they take it out of the hands, and so people can't learn about the sport, play the sport for free. There are no fields available unless you pay. There's no space available. You have to buy the right equipment. You have to join a club. You have to pay for coaching, and it's onerous. So whereas it's a sport that comes really from the grassroots to everywhere else, it's been stifled in this country. And MLS is a perfect representation of that, and the way they stifle football in this country, and they don't allow for promotion relegation. So they have their closed system, so they can sell their franchises. Going back to Inter Miami, they made that deal with Beckham to come over, and he got that club at a cut rate deal. But it's just the way it all operates here is quite backwards, to be honest, and does not allow for kind of growth like it does in other parts of the world.
Right. And could it also be kind of, if you make it, it's not as kind of impressive on the financials like stuff like American football and basketball, who I would assume pay more than something like, let's just say, soccer?
They don't pay more than football globally.
Certainly, mostly in America.
Exactly. And again, even in the States, and that would highlight the problem, right? The inequity of the sports here. When more people play the one sport, but more money is going to other sports, it shows there's a problem, and just one of the many reasons football is held back here.
Okay. Awesome, man. Shit. We could talk about that for an hour. I knew we could.
I didn't know I was going down that rabbit hole.
But... for part 2, guys, we're going to talk about the issues of soccer in the US.
There's a great hashtag that I like to promote sometimes, and it's a hashtag ProRel, the number 4 USA. So it's promotion relegation for USA.
Okay.
Big advocate of that.
Okay, awesome. I'll hit that hashtag when I release the video. Right, so let's get to stuff more fun. So,
yes.
How did you become a Real Madrid fan, man? What started it?
I love this question because it's because I remember the answer. I don't remember a lot of things in my life, but this I remember quite distinctly. Living in Venezuela, we only had exposure to certain teams. So we had the Milan back in my day. Milan were the gods, right? Everybody, you had to be a Milan fan, even if you had another team. Milan were the gods. So I wasn't interested in Milan except for certain players. And we had Milan. I had Barca, of course. I had not a little bit of Bayern, not much. Manchester United, Real Madrid, Juventus, kind of the main.
Oh, teams, the major players in those days. Yeah.
And in those days, people might not know that. I mean, the top league was the Italian league.
Yes, it was.
Right? So when you're talking about Milan and Juve and stuff, you're talking about basically Madrid, City, maybe now Barcelona, 09 kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So my attention always turned to Spain because of the technical game there. I love that it was fluid. I love that it was technical. I love that anybody of any build could play as long as they had the right mind.
Yeah.
And so And so I've whittled it down to Spain. And in Spain, I have exposure to two teams, and it's Barcelona or Madrid. And I'm watching Barcelona. I'm like, wow, these guys, they're pretty fucking good. I've never seen this, but then I'm like, okay, and then I'm like, okay, where's this going? And it was like football blue balls, because it's good, and then there's no end product. There was no penetration, and this was give me some friggin' penetration.
Football blue balls.
Football blue balls. There's that famous quote.
So goes the PG certification of this video.
Yeah, that's gonna go away even further with this quote. I don't know if you've ever.
Wait. Sorry, I gotta say no. Wait. I'm taking down the whole that whole team. Yeah, Nemo was just out of control. I said to him after, for God's sake, stop using the F word. But I think it's just part of the orientation of that hall,
Maybe it's the culture. And to be fair, the culture goes back to one man. You got to take it to the top. That's Mariner's fault.
Oh yeah.
He's got the knock of a sailor. He's got the show of a sailor. I mean,
but please elaborate on your football blue balls, because it's extremely interesting.
Okay, so
there's no penetration. There's a lot of foreplay, but no.
Exactly. All possession without penetration is just masturbation. Is the point I think we're trying to make here. So that's my experience watching Barcelona, right? They're with their tiki-taka. Then I see Madrid. And Madrid is about it's a couple of short passes as bait, and then it's a through ball. And then it's a defense, it's a line splitting pass. And to me, there's nothing especially when you're looking at the midfield positions and even defensive positions, a through ball, like a line splitting pass, I find my heart skips a beat. It's like, oh, here we go. And I never got that from Barca. So I think because of that emotional factor, I just gravitate, and that's my style of play. I like getting into spaces and behind. I like to see how space is manipulated off the ball to create space to penetrate, not penetrate that space, penetrate the space. And ever since that was it. I was a Madridista.
Amazing. And first of all, the kit is absolutely gorgeous, by the way. What year is that number, man?
Thank you. So this is 1994-95.
What player does that reminisce with, in your opinion?
Oh, I mean, it's a whole ethos, I think. I think if I were to highlight the two players, it would be on either end of the pitch, and it would be Hierro and Raúl.
Oh yeah.
And they embody, they're very different, obviously, but they embody the same kind of ethos, that this mentality of overcoming even their own personal limitations to show something great.
There's usually a player you attach yourself to when you start supporting a team, and I like to think. So, I've had a few guests, luckily, who pre me asking them. I said to them, listen, I'd like to do a video of this. And they're like, oh, but I'm not from the area. And I'm like, you don't pick your team. Usually your team picks you. I know it sounds really cringy, but it's true, man. It's that feeling you get. For me, it was Ian Wright with Arsenal. Yeah. And being a Londoner as well. And the whole, like you said, the ethos, the mentality, you feel integrated as part of the culture of your football team, which only a fan can ever really understand. So Ian Wright took me. Who was the player that almost made Madrid select you as a fan? There's always a player or players that attach you, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's an easy one for me, and it's Raúl González Blanco, the guy that should never have been anything. I mean, undersized, and this was a different time, so we didn't have like Messi's and Neymar's and Salah's running around. We didn't have these little mosquitoes that were amazing, right? So it's a different time, but Raúl was never very technically gifted. He just understood space, and he understood the intention of the defender, and I think that quality that's the biggest quality I learned as a player from watching him, and And then when I really like kind of thought about the kind of the philosophy of that, of understanding the intention of the defender, it's almost like using compassion, like empathy and putting yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
But then you take that compassion and you stab them in the back with it because you go and you score on them, right? So it's a little bit self-serving, but just that act I thought was so beautiful and just highlighted a skill that is maybe in short supply in the world, and that this game, the beautiful game, could teach us all.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, there were three players in European football that just took my breath away. One was as strikers, because when I was younger, because I'm like 5'8", I'm not that tall, and when I was younger and played at a semi-pro level at Fulham, or the youth team, sorry, there were three players that got me, and they were so different from me, but then some were similar. One was Gabriel Batistuta, the Batigol, just in love with the guy. I just loved him.
Yeah.
The other one was Alessandro Del Piero.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved the way that he almost had that invisible. He became a number 10 before it became a number 10, if that makes sense. He would take that positions. But my number one guy was Raul. With all these guys around him, all the Galacticos, all the money, all the hype and stuff like that, Raul was just my guy. Yeah. I tried to play like him, even though I'm right-footed. But I thought he was the most intelligent striker in the 90s, like the most intelligent one. He knew where to take the positions. The way he ripped open Manchester United at Old Trafford, it's just the intelligence that got him in that position as well. And I agree with you. He's not a burly guy with a 52-yard shot or like sub 10 second 100-meter speed. He was just so intelligent and is one of the greatest strikers I've ever seen. So Raul got me to love Madrid as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's interesting, and yeah, we can all relate to him, right? He's very relatable. There's a little Raul in all of us, kind of.
I agree.
If I were to mention a couple of others, I mean, my favorite of all time is Zizou. He was everything that I could never be as a player. Just seeing his grace and his 360 vision and the way he would glide. And then the other one going way back is the guy that really who awoke. I've had ever since 1990 I've had a love for African football, and that's thanks to Roger Milla. He a Cameroon superstar from the 1990 World Cup, and then every World Cup since then I have my African team that I pick.
Oh, amazing!
That I'll support one African team every World Cup. So those are my guys.
Before we move on, I'm sorry. I knew I'd get. Usually, I like the guests to talk and all this, but when it's Madrid, it's just a different story. But, in Euro 2000, France played Spain, I think, in the quarterfinals, and my father was lucky enough to watch the game. He went to France. I think it was in France. I don't remember. No, in Holland. In Holland, it was in Holland. Yeah. Euro 2000, yeah. And
Belgium and Holland, right?
That's right. Yeah, it was a split. And he said that when Zidane got the ball, all these Spanish players were onto him. I think Gaisca Mendieta might have been playing, and other guys as well in midfield. Some really amazing players, but Spain didn't get over the hump. Let's just say that they always had the talent, but didn't have that last bit that you need. You could say blue balls. And, my dad said that when Zidane would get the ball, they just can't get it off him. The way he floats, he glides, his understanding of balance, his agility, his strength. His strength was so underrated. They just couldn't get through him. And he goes, it was so liquid. It was like he was moving on water. It's not so fast. It's just pure flair. And in my lifetime, there's the 5 greatest players. Zidane's in the top 5. I don't know what the order is, but Zidane's in the top 5. He does something special, isn't it? When you watch him play this, he takes you somewhere. Does that make sense?
I think water is the common theme amongst the top 5. If you look at Maradona and when people would, and the same with Messi, when then people try to tackle him, it's just like you go through their legs, literally through them, and then the legs, they're still standing and they keep going, right? They all had this kind of, they all move like water, all 5.
Like Bruce Lee says.
Like Bruce Lee says. That's exactly.
All right. Awesome. So we'll get to the next part. Is So it's an interesting, and we have a fantastic couple of questions regarding the game in La Liga right now. But
Mhm.
it's a bit of a funny kind of season, I feel, in regards to there's none of those absolute major global stars right now in La Liga. So I'm kind of thinking, what are your expectations with Madrid this season?
I mean, I think La Liga is going through like it reminds me of I don't know if you ever read To Build a Fire by Jack London, and it talks about this guy that goes into the cold and he's dying of hypothermia. And what happens when you're cold, right, is your body stops sending blood to the limbs, you know, and then just keeps it in the central areas. I think La Liga is kind of hibernating right now, recovering from the pandemic. You see, like the purchases are down. Money's still way down. There was money troubles even before the pandemic. So I think overall you see the lack of superstars because of that. But when you watch La Liga and you see teams like a team like Levante who's in 17th place and they're still coming out to play, right?
Yeah,
And you know, let's not look at let's put too much stock. I don't put too much stock in the table right now, right? It's still a little bit early. There's still quality coming from the league. And if you look at teams like Real Sociedad, for example, who've been showing quality for several seasons now. So I think they're going to find that kind of balance. This season, I mean, my expectations are we should win it just because everyone else is so shit this season. It's and it's I wouldn't knock the other teams or like I don't think Madrid is a good team right now. I don't think we're a balanced team. I think we have a lot of problems in defense. I think so. It's going to be kind of a rough season, maybe in Europe. But we should win the league, and then it's next season we're going to see big headlines in Spain, big headlines. I think.
I feel like every major league kind of goes through a transition period, is maybe the nice way of saying it, where it kind of
Mhm.
goes through a few years of, like you say, hibernating before the beast comes out. England had it in pretty much all the 90s, apart from Manchester United's 99 winning campaign in the Champions League. Could that possibly be happening?
I think so. I do, and also with the news, and I know this might come up later, but the news of like the Super League, there's a lot of uncertainty and like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Here's one thing I will say that La Liga does not have a robust fantasy option. The fantasy La Liga, and I think fantasy really helps a league. I think it helps generate a lot of revenue for leagues worldwide. We see I think here in the U.S. Even the impact on fantasy and NFL has been enormous, right?
Oh, like draft league. It's draft league or
Yeah.
something like that.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, they have all like they have daily. They have all a variety of fantasy platforms for
Right.
NFL.
Okay.
And I think La Liga could benefit with some kind of like innovation like that
Yeah, that's true.
attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah, because look at FPL. It's its own beast.
It's exactly, and it helps bring people like I use FPL in my coaching to help introduce the players and the teams to kids. So
Well,
they know about them. You know, kids that maybe that they're not able to watch it because the games are on during school time or something like that.
oh, you've done something. I have to go back now. Tell me a bit more about that. Look what you did.
I hit the rewind.
I tried to bait you with the coaching. You're like, yeah, I've got it. But now you got to tell me a little bit, man. How do you incorporate the FPL in your coaching methods? That's amazing.
Well, I mean, because left to their own devices, certainly kids in America, they will not watch football. They just won't. So fantasy gives them a stake in the game, and then they start. That stake gives them interest, and that interest breeds education. So I'm in Who Is Gabe. This is something I'm remiss that I missed this part. I'm an educator also by trade. I've been a coach and a teacher for many years. I have a company where I design a distance learning management system for universities
Beautiful.
in Latin America. So education is my baby as well. and I think of kind of everything through that lens. So I use fantasy to introduce just the world game to kids, because I do think that watching matches is extremely beneficial to the development.
Beautiful.
And I also coach the dark arts.
Oh yeah.
I do. As early as 6 or 7, I tell them, look, you have to. There's a referee, and he enforces the rules, right? If he doesn't enforce it, then it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter what the rule is, right? So you have to know where the referee is, right? If somebody hits you and you're in the box, you need to go down. They hit you, so the ref needs to know that they hit you. So get that penalty.
So, guys, behind that handsome, charming face, there's a demon. I love it. I feel like I'm getting closer to this man.
So where I'm from, this is part of it. This is part of the game, and it's part of the intelligence and the human elements of the game. If you don't develop it and you just like sit back judging it, you're limiting your own developments within the game. That's how we see it anyway.
Oh, I fully agree. You're a victim of the circumstances because you're not taking advantage of what's there.
That's it.
Yeah.
And there's so much fun to take advantage of too. Like when they go down and you get up and you have a little smirk on your face and you're doing a little dance inside. Your team got a penalty. Oh, it's brilliant. It's a good experience.
Oh no, this is good because I'm the captain of a five-a-side team that we have. So we play weekly around like a goals, we call it here. It's basically a center where you can play.
I've been to goals. They have them in LA.
Oh,
Goals?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So this is our 3rd season, and we've only been going 3 seasons. We've been promoted each season. And when I was captain, I said, listen, guys, you've got to get in you got to frustrate the other team because we're quite skillful, but we're not that big and burly. So we play in the Veterans League over 35s. And basically I said to them, listen, don't get involved, frustrate them. And literally when they touch us, we go down in fortuitous areas, get the penalties on this. And the other team just get more frustrated. They're arguing, they're fighting and everything. And, you know, we're just there kind of like, yep, we'll take the 5-1 win. Thank you. And then we just literally get our bags and go.
Exactly. It's like you sit back and you watch what you've created just unfold.
Yeah.
And you watch. Did you ever see the movie Stand By Me?
Yeah, of course.
You know the puke scene where he makes everyone puke and he sits back and watches it all unfold. It's like that. It's good stuff.
I literally said, it's very bad. I'm like, guys, we're watching Pompeii here. Let's just chill. Watch them completely burn themselves. It's an extreme example. Your example was better. All right, man. So before we get to the really fun bit, was there anything else you wanted to add? So you kind of said we should win it, which I agree. On paper, still got the best team, in my opinion. In Europe, is it kind of like get to the knockouts, see how we go? A bit like last season almost, where you got a lot further than people expected, including myself.
I think in Europe, just don't get embarrassed. It's like, and that's weird coming from a Madrid fan. But what I mean by that is, show the character of Madrid, compete, and whatever. If you lose, you get knocked out. Everybody knows that we haven't made our purchases, right? That Mbappe's coming next year, and so on and so forth. So just do your best and compete, and don't get embarrassed, and go as far as you can. And I think everything will be. I think this season is almost like a one to forget across the board for Spanish teams.
Perfect. Right, so now we're going to get to the really fun part. Oh, me and Gabe were all over each other on this one, but it was great fun. So we're going to go to the ultimate 11. Now, usually, I allow my fantastic guests to just give me their lineup. I put it on, we talk about it. But I just couldn't let up with this one, man. So before we get to the main meal, before we get to the steak, we're going to go to the bread and water. So we're going to go with the appetizer. So the first one is going to be me. Now, first of all, can you see that okay?
Looking over here. Yep.
All right, sweet. So my greatest ever Real Madrid team that I have had the pleasure of watching is a 4-3-3. So I like to put a team that I think can play. So I teased Gabe a bit, but we'll get there. But first, I got to go with Iker Casillas. I think he was not appreciated until he left Real Madrid. I thought he was a phenomenal goalkeeper. His distribution on the back, I felt, was kind of like era-defining. Before it became cool I felt Casillas was doing it already, you know.
Mhm.
Captain of my team got to be Hierro. I love the guy. I just loved him. Ramos, right back. That's how he started his trade. Varane, for me, is one of the best defenders in the last 10 years. I think he's amazing. I World Cup winner. How many Champions League wins? I felt like
All
he was.
time, all time 11.
Yeah, this is
Wow.
my all-time
Yeah.
midfielder.
Okay. Okay. Well, the young Frenchman has come a long way.
He has, hasn't he? Right? Yeah. Or maybe I'm not old enough.
Yeah.
Left back Roberto Carlos, probably my favorite left back ever, but Maldini was probably better in my opinion. Makaleli had a position named after him, Gabe. You know, when I look at Kante, I'm like, yeah, you're kind of like
You're
Makaleli.
cute. You're cute.
Yeah, you're cute, dude. You're cute. Xabi Alonso, I think he just elevated to a new level when he went to Madrid.
Mhm.
And I'll just look at my front four. I won't even separate them. You are not stopping that team. And with the way football is being played now, I could actually see Raul operate from the right as a right wing forward, if you like, but then
Mhm.
cut into that magical right foot. And I think, especially with the front three, it's quite fluid. I think they can all move to different positions at some point during the game. And the spear of it is my favorite ever non-Arsenal player, which is Ronaldo. So give me your thoughts. What do you think?
So let's start at the back. Casillas picks himself, obviously. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to fault. I think Varane is a
Tell me
player
what you feel,
like.
dude. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, so if we're, it sounds like this is what you said. The way you introduced the team was the best that you've seen play. So that's a different kind of caveat. But so I guess Varane, but I don't think Varane has not had that big of an impact. I think at Madrid. I think he was sold for a reason. I think the expectations of him were much higher. So I would very much question him amongst these greats.
Isn't that good though that he wasn't mentioned too much? It means he's doing his job.
No, not at Madrid. It doesn't. At Madrid, you want to be taught. I mean, you're going to be talked about. if and I think that he wasn't talked about too much. But there were always like nobody was ever impressed with Varane with what he had done but maybe expectations were too high to begin with, and that might be clouding the judgment. I love the Xabi Alonso pick. He's right now he's managing his old club, the B team, Real Sociedad B. Yep. So I mean, just legend, brilliant player. Makelele, the year we sold Makelele to Chelsea, well, that was the end.
That was the end. Agreed.
It was over. So that one hurts. Even seeing Makelele there, and then I mean, the front four. The one thing I will say about Ronaldo, Brazilian Ronaldo, is he wasn't around long enough to really be a like Madrid staple or like have that big impact. But I'll forgive the pick because I think, and I don't know if you'd agree, probably the best ever.
Yes.
Like number one.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So that I agree. So that I'm of the same opinion, and so that's why I'll forgive that pick. And then I guess my criticism would be there are no old legends, and we'll get to that shortly here.
Oh yeah,
really old.
Guys, before color TVs, spoiler.
Before the printing press and light bulbs.
Before cars were motorized.
And no, I'm not showing my age with this. I'm just showing my affiliation.
All right.
But overall, I mean, if you were to face this team, I mean, this team would win everything right now, of course.
Thank you. I'm so happy you said what you said about Ronaldo. Ronaldo, Il Fenomeno, is that how you say?
Il Fenomeno.
Il Fenomeno is when he was at his peak, he's the greatest athlete I've ever seen. It's not even just footballer, just athlete. He had everything. And there was no real malicious intent in his game either. He was just the perfect footballer on his day. That Barcelona year, I think I was 13 or 14 in 98. I've still never seen anything like it. You know, you look at Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo, all these goals and all that kind of stuff. But it was a different time back then, man. People used to get kicked, like
Yeah,
kicked, you
yeah.
know. And what he did that year and in the World Cup in 2002 and a few years for Real Madrid, which is amazing. He never won a Champions League.
Hmm.
I just feel he's one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen,
Yeah.
or sportsman when he was at
And
his
he
peak.
and he did it while wearing these parachute jerseys, where they're these huge
Exactly.
things.
All right, so you burned
Yeah,
my team, so I'm gonna torch your one now. So
how about it? Let's see it.
so we are gonna go to your 11, man. So please go through it. By the way, it looks like a FIFA Ultimate Team. You just put everyone together. So if you could please elaborate.
Well, why don't you let me go through it before you trash it?
One
No,
thing I'll
I'm
say, you
joking.
can't you
Yeah.
can't lose with the lineups. You can't lose, in my
Right.
opinion. But go ahead, man.
Especially since they're made up. So I have Casillas in goal. I'm going to go by kind of order of position. So Ramos at right back, Marcelo at left back, Hierro and Camacho at center back. I'm in a 4-4-2, by the way. Midfield four, I have Cristiano Ronaldo, where he started on the right wing. I have Zidane and Puskás, two attacking center mids. And I have Francisco Paco Gento from
Amazing
the
player.
50s and 60s, just an incredible winger
Unbelievable.
on the left wing, and Raul and Alfredo Di Stefano front two.
Why Marcelo over Carlos? Because I can almost make the same argument with the Varane thing you said. And I'm not picking holes here.
Not really, because Marcelo was very much like he came in. He was at Madrid for a lot longer than Varane, and I think he captained us for sometimes as well. Maybe not. I might be mistaken on that. But he was like for a long time. He was the style hub of our team, right? And Roberto Carlos. So one thing is true of both of them. Neither one of them are good defenders. They never have been,
No.
right? But Marcelo going forward, right? If Marcelo can do anything, he can drive up the wing, he can control the ball, he can step into midfield, he can play through balls, he can win balls. Roberto Carlos can't do everything. Roberto Carlos is the Adama Traore if he would have stayed at defense. He's a very limited as a player. And even people say, oh, but his free kicks, he actually didn't score that many free kicks. He has that one
Him and
against France.
Cristiano
That's
Ronaldo
legendary.
have this. Him and Cristiano Ronaldo have the same kind of inkling with free kicks. You remember the
Yes.
great ones, but there's a lot of balloons.
A lot of misses and a lot of ones where like it never came back on him, like really embarrassing ones. So I like Marcelo's style way more than Roberto Carlos. Should I go over? I mean, I don't know. Paco Gento, for those that don't
Please,
know,
yeah, please.
you know, he's one of the greats, one of the legendary 11s, number 11s of all time. There's some black and white video on YouTube. If you can see him, watch the way he glides past defenders. Just as a winger, we see that a lot more in the modern game. He was kind of a real pioneer, super graceful winger. I mean, I don't even have to talk about Di Stefano. Di Stefano can play as a striker or as a support striker. You know, Puskás, there's an award named after him. So,
Unbelievable.
And then Camacho, Jose Antonio Camacho, just like monster. This guy, like, he instilled fear in anybody that came around him, and Fernando Hierro as well. And like Hierro is famous for like people in Spain, they don't like Hierro. The guy he's a problem off the field. He's like just garbage, a garbage of a human being. And on the field, if you played against him, you felt that garbage. So he'd make you feel. This is one of those teammates that you're just really glad he's on your team. And Camacho was the same. And I like that in my center backs.
So this team, imagine this team existed and it comes out on the pitch. when I first looked at it, I thought, oh well, if my team played this team, they just have to get through the first line. But the problem is try and get the ball off that first line. But one thing I did think about, and honestly, after teasing, I like to think I'm semi-intelligent, is I thought, well, when this team is off the ball, you can imagine either Ramos or Marcelo kind of going into that CDM position just to hold it a little bit to make sure that it's difficult to stifle through before you get to the defense. But this team has so much God-given ability that you can imagine 72% possession. And when you get the ball, you're just trying to get out your own half. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I would also add that since Ramos and Marcelo would both pinch in, that this team would concede wide areas, and good luck sending a ball into Camacho and Hierro. You're going to be forced to cross into those two monsters, and maybe hope for a penalty. I guess that could happen with those two beasts back there.
Imagine VAR back then.
Yeah, those guys wouldn't make it with VAR.
They wouldn't make it as professionals. That's right.
No, exactly. They'd be playing on your five-a-side team.
Oh man, fantastic! So we'll move on, man. This has been brilliant so far, Gabe. Really appreciate it. I knew we'd have a good time, man. I knew we would. So this has been absolutely wonderful. So I'll go to the next part, which is community questions. So. First of all, let me just zoom that slightly. Can you see that okay, my buddy?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So got a few questions. So thanks so much, guys. One from Hazard, which is, and as an Arsenal fan, this is a really good question. Now, how you say it is Erdegård, yeah, because I have some Norwegian friends and family that live in Drummond. So thoughts on the Erdegård transfer to Arsenal?
So yeah, I was actually mindful to say Ødegaard because I heard it on a podcast. I don't remember where I heard it, but thoughts on Ødegaard transfer. I think it's brilliant for Arsenal. It's exactly what Arsenal need. A playmaker that will start a little bit deep, a little bit cautiously, and push into space when the momentum calls for it. And I think that's a trait that he showed really well when he went on loan to Real Sociedad.
Yeah.
That season he went on loan there, I learned a lot about Ødegaard. So and tells me that it's a brilliant transfer for Arsenal. I think he's going to be, it's going to work out.
What happened to him? Because he came to you guys at 16, and I really did expect him to be the next superstar, honestly. Because the talent was there at such a young age. Did he just not get the chance, or what are your thoughts?
No, I think I think he developed nicely. I think he came as a 16-year-old. He went on loan everywhere. He was the creative hub at Real Sociedad. Now David Silva has that role now, and he played really well. So I think he developed well, and now, he's not amongst the best players in the world, but I think he's been improving, and he's still quite young, and now he's on to his next challenge. I think we need to kind of like readjust our expectations of players. I think of my perspective now is I pretend these players are my son, and if my son had this kind of development, and I take a broad lens, I'm like, that's a good trajectory. You get bought by Madrid. You go on loan several places. You really smash it out at Sociedad. You get bought by Arsenal. It's a nice little career developing for Ødegaard.
That's a really fair perspective. Do you think he could have been more at Madrid?
I don't know. I think Madrid can sometimes get stale for players, and there's so much politics that go on, and there's so much and there's so many like superstars there that I think he could have made it, and I think it would be possible for him. He's definitely talented enough to have made it there. But Madrid, since Zidane, we're not a team that really thrives with a 10. That's not our tradition to have that 10. So it was never a natural fit, but I think I like how Madrid recognized his talents, invested in him as a teenager, gave him opportunities, and now are continuing to get to open the door for him with this Arsenal transfer. I think it's brilliant. I think this is exactly what you want to see in world football.
Very well said. And personally, when we got him on loan last season, I was delighted. And the fact that we signed him for such low amounts, when you look at what the going rate is now, I honestly feel it's daylight robbery. I think the guy's going to be an incredible footballer for Arsenal. So.
Yeah, I agree.
Perfect. So question number 2. So I actually don't know this, so you could tell me, but is Asensio playing in a more deeper role?
Asensio has been moved around for a long time. I think his best position is on the wing.
Me too.
High up the field on the wing, in some space, with some forgiveness to maybe make some mistakes. Unfortunately, Asensio is extremely inconsistent, and he can. I don't know what it like. It seems to me when I'm watching the game that he has trouble staying with the dynamics of the team as the tactics change in game. So he'll start, everything starts fine, and then he'll just be lost. Now I wouldn't trust that assessment too much, because you have to actually talk to the player and be behind the scenes to know. But I don't know. I think it's time for Asensio to be moved on. And I mean, it's similar to Isco. Isco is one of my favorite players.
Transition to the next, that question there, regarding Isco,
yeah. So and is it needed? Is Asensio going to mid needed when you have Camavinga and Isco already? I think Isco needs to find a new challenge as well. It's inconsistent at Madrid, and I think it's also because of that 10. That 10 is awkward for Madrid. It always has been. And then what I will say is Asensio won't do the same things as Camavinga. Two very, very different players. But so far, Camavinga is a signing of the offseason in world football, in my opinion. From what we've seen thus far in the first few weeks of all the leagues.
Very rarely do I see like a young player who's highly touted go get a big transfer and still perform to what their expectations were. And sometimes they get overhyped, like Erdegaard, Erdegaard maybe.
Yeah.
But, he's like 19, 20. But whenever I watch Camavinga, I'm just like, Jesus.
Yeah.
What is this guy?
He's
already world class.
Yeah. I mean, he's N'Golo Kante and he's Odegaard. He's both.
There's a bit of Vieira in there.
It's no, for sure,
because of the drive as well. Vieira was brilliant with the drive.
Just gliding, like just occupying space. Like he just takes it, and this is my space, and it's obvious when he takes it. Like, oh yeah, that's always been your space. That's how I felt watching Vieira as well. I was like, oh man, you just own whatever you want. Take it. It's beautiful.
Fantastic. We'll go to the next one. Oh, my man, Jay, Stadium of Sports. So he has the roundup show at the FPL Juice, and I'm the Arsenal juicer for FPL Juice. So this guy always does the questions for me. He's brilliant. So Jay, Stadium of Sports, another excellent guest. I agree. Questions. What was your thoughts on the Super League as a Real Madrid fan? Because Madrid haven't rejected it. They're still on the board of the Super League, I think. So what are your thoughts?
I mean, we're driving it.
You made it.
We made it. We are the architect. Florentino Perez is the mastermind behind all of this. The conductor. And that train's not going to stop. For everyone that's thinking like, oh, we beat down this evil power.
Nope.
No, that's because and here's why that's not going to stop. And it leads to my opinion. The Super League is not the problem. The Super League is a symptom of an underlying problem with inequity in football, and it really is that simple. It's inequity and it's greed, and the way people see it in Spain is there is no league, right? The league belongs like the league that Real Madrid is playing with their budget does not compare to the league Levante is playing with their budget.
100%.
So let's be realistic about that. If it's not the same league already, and we're pretending that it is, why not just give them their Super League, and it makes all the other leagues a lot more interesting? So let them go, let them do their thing, and but then the leagues that are left need investment, right?
Exactly.
Um, and that's the problem. The investment always goes to the top, and when you start a system like that, if you try to take that away, or if you don't let those that are getting all of the investment get more, then you have a problem like the Super League, and I think that's what we have here. So the problem is, the way I see it, is in inequity in football. The problem is not of a Super League, and a Super League is not the evil thing. The
No,
Super League is the symptom that is pointing to the evil thing. And if we can tackle that inequity, then the conversation of the Super League is irrelevant.
perfect. Question number 2: which England team is the most popular amongst Real Madrid fans?
I gotta say, I have no idea.
Or how about Spanish fans? La Liga fans?
I mean, the La
It's a
Liga
tough
fans.
question.
Yeah, there are no like La Liga fans, because no Madrid fan.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, that's
all
true.
Madrid
Sorry.
fan. Like, we probably all hate City. I don't operate like, my fandom isn't based on hatred of the other.
Tribalism.
Maybe because I didn't grow up with the tension, with the cultural tensions, because I have adopted teams. I'm not from these places. So, but if I were, I mean,
I guess one that has a lot of exposure, maybe in España or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, just like over here, they always show Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern. Maybe
yeah.
that's a good example. You know, who would you think are the most um, exposed? Maybe.
I mean, the ones, obviously the ones with the Spanish players, Manchester City would get a lot of exposure. Um, Manchester United does, just because of the brand that they are, not because of the players they have. Who else? I think Chelsea's well respected, because the Chelsea model is maybe somewhat similar to the big clubs in Spain.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's no there. I don't think there is a favorite. I don't think there's like a fascination or anything.
Cool. Finally, a bit of
Hmm.
FPL, man. Yeah, where the man makes the big bucks.
Shit.
So, how do you decide your captain, Gabe? Stats, fixtures, or EO? And I'll throw in one more, a combination of all three or two of them. What's your go-to?
Mariners metric. I defer that decision. I hate the captaincy. I hate that in FPL, probably because I'm just not very good at it. Last
You know,
season, I mean, last season, I think I famously got, I don't know, it was really low. I think it was right around 500 or captaincy points. So I'm going with Mariners metric this season. But I do think, if I were to do it myself, I'd probably lean more on effective ownership,
yep.
because of the um, uncertainty I have with it, with the captaincy selection. If I were historically, if I were to hit the captaincy, I might have another criteria, but I just don't want to get burned.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll go with
Yeah.
EO.
Yeah. Same with me. I don't like it, but sometimes you have to go with the herd mentality, especially with captaincy, because even
Yeah.
if it fails, you're not being burned. Really.
Yeah.
Sweet. So cheers for that, Jay. And here's another. My God, I realize I work with a lot of people in the community. Maybe I need to stop.
I'm telling you, you are the Wizard of Oz. You're pulling the strings behind the curtains. No one knows, man. It's happening. It's
Exactly.
happening. I feel
That's.
communities churning because of you.
Oh man, they're getting raided, man. Trust me, they're getting
They're
raided.
getting raided.
Honestly, man. Yeah, REYD. They're getting raided. Yeah. Why do you think I wanted to associate myself with Net That Whore, man? You guys are getting up there, so I'm just gonna pull on the strings.
That's right.
So, Open World FPL Grady, who I know very well, we both have an association with the FPL Way, and all the way from the States, and a really good guy. In terms of questions, I'd ask how Gabe feels the future of the traditional powers will move forward, specifically with Real Madrid, but also with Barca. Do you see a La Liga that will be more closely mirror a consistent top 4 or 5 teams that can challenge for every year, more like the Premier League? So, for example, we always have 3-4 teams who could be in with a sniff, while in Spain your maximum have 3. Could you see it moving a bit more of an open title, if you like, where there could possibly be a few? Okay.
Not unless there's a Super League. It's the only way that there will be more parity in La Liga, mostly because of the political power of the presidents and owners at the top.
Couldn't see a Leicester happening, even though that was a miracle.
I mean, the closest thing to that happened last season when Atletico won.
Well, haven't they won like 3 of the last 10 or something like that?
Atletico?
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Maybe.
I think Simeone's won 3, or definitely 2 La Ligas.
Yeah,
Simeone.
yeah. But yeah, no, parity. I don't see that happening in La Liga because of the power imbalance.
Okay. So, dude, unfortunately, we've come to that point, man. My God, could talk all day, but I got to let your fine self go. But before we kind of wrap it up, did you enjoy it? I mean, it's a completely different experience, right?
It is. But it's almost like all the weight's off. You know, you just like you don't have to talk about anything. It's just talking. You know, kind of thing. So I like that. I appreciate that. So thank you for this. This was fun.
Yeah, don't be silly, man. Checks in the mail. I owe a lot of checks. But before we wrap this up, my man, and it has been, it exceeded how brilliant I thought it would be, and I knew it would be highly enjoyable. And I've been wanting to do this with you for a while, actually, and it was great that we got this going. But before we wrap it up, man, how do they follow Gabe?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter. I am at FPL Lens. You see the ticker down there, and I'm also on our show on our YouTube show. It's at Net That Hall. We have 2 shows a week. The early Compass show with at Hibbo_FPL and at FPL Lima, and then I do the matchups show later on in the week with at FPL Mariner. We just recorded early this morning, 5:30 this morning. It's timestamp. It's 1 p.m. now, so it's like almost dinner time for me since I've been up since 4:30. But yeah, check us out. I hope you guys enjoy it. And I just posted FPL matchups. I write an FPL matchups article almost every week, and it's a very short article this week because most of the work was done on the back end. So do check that out. I hope to get kind of interactions. It's a new metric that I'm experimenting with, right? So it's a matchups XG metric, MXG. So we'll see how that goes. If you're interested, check that out. It's on my Twitter.
Throw me all the links as well, and I'll put it on the YouTube thing. Yeah, throw it all to me, and I'll just put it all there. But well, Gabe, once again, man, absolutely appreciate it. It was absolutely beautiful. Please make sure to follow Gabe. He's not only is he a really personable and educated guy, like the actual content that he brings out with Net That Hall and also on his own profile is absolutely brilliant. I'd be lying if I said I didn't use it. So. Gabe, absolutely wonderful, man. I think I want to do something like this again with you, but maybe around a different subject. I think there's good chemistry there.
So yeah, well, we still have the discussion. Is life characterized by competition and cooperation? So maybe that'll be the next topic we can discuss next time.
Definitely, yeah. I'm the competition type, and you're the coordination type, which is good.
I'll tell you why you're wrong.
All right, okay.
Teaser for next time, everyone. Teaser.
Beautiful. So guys, make sure to of course like and subscribe to me. Hopefully, also Gabe at FPL Lens at Net That Hall. Got a few really exciting guests coming on. We got Andy, the tactician, happening next week, and then the week after we got James from Planet FPL, which is fantastic. So bye from Gabe.
Bye guys. Thanks for
Bye from me, guys. God bless and take care.